9. These are all the exponential function skills. So you'll have all these highlighted. So you can see how well you did if you completely bombed it, or if you got a few right, or if you aced it. So this is our little review sheet. So each of the skills that we go through during this EOC review, we're going to have a paper that's going to remind us of certain things, and then we'll have some practice problems to do. So for exponential functions, it's all of these skills right here. The graph is going to increase or decrease rapidly. So remember, exponential functions look like this. This would be considered an increase because it's increasing from left to right. Or it could be a decrease where it goes down like that. So it looks kind of like an L shape. That's what the graph looks like. The function has this form, a times b raised to the x. See how the variable is your exponent? X is usually time. Sometimes t is the variable. So it could say a is b raised to the t. So you're not going to be just given a is this, b is this, write the equation. You're going to be given a word problem, and you have to figure out what is a, what is b, and then write the equation. Or maybe you're given an equation in this form and it asks, what's the y-intercept? Or what's the rate of increase or decrease? So it's going to be a word problem, not just what is this equation. A is the starting amount, or it could be the y-intercept, or the other word that you'll see is principal. The principal amount, the amount of money that you put into the account to start with. So that would be called your principal amount. Highlight this next part. B is the ratio. Always compare B to 1. So B is either 1 point something or it could be 0 point something. So B is 1 plus the rate or 1 minus the rate. So it's 1 plus the rate if you have growth, exponential growth. Go ahead and write that there. Underline 1 plus rate for growth or an increase, or it could be 1 minus the rate for a decrease or decay. So B is the ratio. Sometimes it'll say that the amount doubles every time. So if it says doubles, then that means that your B is 2. If it says quadruple, B is 4. If it says triple, B is 3. So that's whenever it says one of those multiplying words. But if it gives you a percent increase or decrease, you're either going to add it to 1 or subtract from 1. So B is greater than 1 means increase. So 1.25 means a 25% increase because you would do 1 plus 0.25, which is 1.25. So that's an increase. Exponential growth. If it's less than 1, then that means decrease. So let's say that our B is 0.75. Then how far away is 0.75 from 1? You would subtract it. So you would do 1 minus 0.75. So the difference there is 25.25, which is a 25% decrease, which is called a decay. Point 0.75. So you got to pay attention to if it says 0 point something as your B value or 1 point something, and that determines growth or decay. So we have a couple of examples. This says 32 times 0.57 raised to the x. So since it has a 0 here, this means exponential decay or decrease. That means it's going to go down increasingly fast. So this is A times B raised to the x. So we need to identify the different parts and then determine what the percent increase or decrease is. So A is 32. The A is the starting amount. It's also called your y-intercept. And on the table of values, if you put this in to y equals this equation, the way it'll show up on the table is x is 0, y is 32. Then your B is 0.57. But that is not your percent increase or decrease. We always compare it to 1. So the way we find our percent increase or decrease, which it's less than 1, it's going to be a decrease. We would do 1 minus 0.57. Because 57 is not the percent increase. 1 minus 0.57. 0.43. So to change this to a percent, you would just move your decimal over 2 places. 43%. It's decay, so it's decrease. This is where a lot of people made their mistake on the benchmark and on other questions like this. They wanted to say it's a 57% decrease, but it's not. It's how far it is away from 1. Because if you think about percent, 100% means stays the same. If we go down to 57, that means it went down by 43. So always compare it back to 1. Don't just take the number behind the decimal. So that's a 43% decrease. So let's look at the increase one. Let's look at this one. 32 times 1.57 raised to the x. So write this above it. A times B raised to the x. Because we have 1 up top, that means this is exponential growth. So a lot of times you can narrow down your choices based on increase and decrease. Growth means we're going to have an increase. So again, A is 32, which is our y-intercept, or our starting amount, or our principal amount, all those different things. And then B is 1.57. But in order to find how much it increased by, we need to find the percent, but we compare it back to 1. So I'm going to do 1.57 minus 1. It's above 1. If I subtract those, I get 0.57. Move it over 2 places. That means it's a 57%. It's growth, so that'd be increase. Let's look at our first problem. Jack and Jill are beginning a lawn care business. They have purchased a zero-turn mower for $6,500. For tax purposes, its value is expected to depreciate at a rate of 15% annually, which function represents the value of the lawnmower over time. So our 6,500 is our A. So for sure, we can mark it down because it's A times B to the T. We can go ahead and mark off F and G because it doesn't have 6,500 first, okay? Our rate, though, see how it says depreciates at a rate of 15% annually? Depreciate, you always compare it back to 1. So if it depreciates, we're going to do 1 minus 0.15 to find B. It doesn't give us B unless it says triple, quadruple, all that. So when we do that, we get 0.85. A lot of people want to choose this because they see that's the number, that's it. But the deal is with exponential, you always compare it back to 1. So that's why we did 1 minus 15%. Because 100% would be the 1. If it's going down by 15%, we're subtracting from 1. So this would be times 0.85 raised to the t. So it is 8. This is one that they want you to miss every time. And if you don't pay attention, you will miss it. So be really careful whenever it says depreciate, decrease, or decay. That means take it away from 1. Okay, go ahead and look at problem 2 now. On problem 2, this says increasing. So that means you're going to do 1 plus the rate. If I move the decimal over, it becomes 0.10, 1.110, 1.1 is the B value. The A value is the 54,000. So remember it's A times B raised to the X. So it's 54,000 times 1.10 raised to the X, which would be F. You need to make sure that you finish all of these problems. Be careful on this one. It says loses 35%. So that means you're going to do 1 minus 0.35 to get your B value. So that's going to help you on that. Double means that your B value is 2. Okay, you should be able to finish the entire paper now.